Page 53, Arkansas Traveler. On page 52, they're introducing a new type of note called a 16th note. Looks ugly. It's not so bad. It's a little ugly at first. Oh, you'll get used to it. You see, these notes just divide in two. We have a whole note. You divide it in two, you get a half note. There's two halves and a whole. Divide that, you get a quarter note. Divide that, you get an eighth note. Now we're dividing eighth notes into 16th notes. So we could keep going. You 32nd, 64, 128, blah, blah. Piano doesn't use all of those, but in theory, that's the idea. You keep dividing the note. And when you do, you just add another flag or a beam across. A single 16th note they show you at the top of the page there. It's an eighth note with another flag that's got two of those flags on it. If you have multiple 16th notes together, they beam them like they do eighth notes, and you can see here. And they're usually beamed according to the beat. Since there's 4 16th notes in a quarter note, remember, because there's 2 16th notes in an eighth note, and there's 2 eighth notes in a quarter note, get out the calculator. Just know there's 4 16th notes in a quarter note. So they're usually beamed by 4 at a time, and that's what they're doing there. That's so you can see the beats more clearly. They have examples there on page 52, but I want to talk about page 53, Arkansas Traveler. When we count these 16th notes, there's different ways of counting them. I ain't getting into that. I use the 1 E and remember, eighth notes is 1 and 2 and. So just put an and in between the number. Well, now we need something in between the number and the and. So it's a 1 E and a. It's similar to what they show on 52 of 1 and a, except I use an E instead of an a. 1 E and a. To me, that's easier to say. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4. Hey, count it. Once you get the hang of it, you don't need to count all that. You can still count eighth notes, and you can feel 2 16th notes in the middle. So it's like 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Give an example here. If I just use a 5-finger position and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 2, 1 E and a 2 E and a, or I can think 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1. So I can think 2 of those notes in between. It's just, I get lazy. I don't want to count 1 E and a 2. I just 1 and 2 and. Once you get to know the piece, of course, and you got the rhythm figured out, you don't have to count it at all because you can just feel it. You feel 4 notes. 1, 2, 1, 2 type thing. So in Arkansas Traveler, starting with the right hand, starting with the G, and your third finger is going to be on the C. So you're in this position. Sort of. You're not going to stay there, but that's where you're starting. And it's coming in on the end of 2. This is in 2/4 time. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1. So it's coming in, and that's 1 E and a, 1 E and a, 1 E and a. Then you bring second finger down here. Leave the hand where it is. You're just bringing the second finger down, because you need third finger on that end. So work out these notes, and the 1 E and a 2 E and this should be okay. Now, second line, look out, because your hand's going to move, and they don't really help you out much here. So you're starting out here. You've had this before, but in the second measure, rather than staying here, I recommend you come down. Use 4th finger, so you can use 5th finger for the first 16th note. You're a little closer, because if you use 3rd, then you got to use 2nd finger, or little finger. You got to move further. So I'm recommending on that second measure, second line is here. Use 4th finger for the C's, and then you can use 5th finger if you want. And this is just a C major scale going down. If you can do the C major scale, this should be pretty easy, because that's the fingering and everything for it. So it's the last 2 measures of the second line. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and you're up on and. That's not a full 2 beats in that measure. Remember, we had a pickup at the beginning, and that's half a beat. That's what that is. Or if you go on, the half a beat is in the beginning of the third line. So the last line on the last measure of the second line is 1 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and. So that's on and of 2. And this is the third line. And it's just 16th notes. And 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. Bring the thumb down. And then the third finger. The second finger. You're moving around a little bit. This is kind of neat. Last line. 2, 1, 2. And then little finger now. This is like it was at the end of the second line. The right hand may take some time to work all that out. Those 16th notes have to be smooth and even and controlled. Don't go too fast. Whatever your speed is, if you got to go slow, that's okay. That's fine. Speed is not important. Control and evenness and all that. The scale, if you're doing the scale, this will help you gain that control that you need. The left hand just gets the chords. You get the C chord, G7 chord. And the second line you get an F chord in there somewhere. And then the third line down is the chords again, but now they're broken chords. Whatever. Put them together. Slowly, I guess. Is this slow? So 4, let's go down to the third line. Get the idea? Then go back and add the articulation. This is the staccato in the left hand, just a nice wrist staccato. Short, boom, bounce off the keys. You're on it and you just bounce off. And the staccato in the left hand all the way through. Go down to the third line. Can you do legato in one hand and staccato in the other? That's a trick. Then you go back and you can add the dynamics. It's sort of loud, moderately loud at the beginning. That's the right hand. Keep the left hand soft. You'll have to decide what moderately loud is. I don't know. Whatever it is. And then when you get to the third line, there's an F-P. So the first time you play it loud, forte. That's the right hand. Keep the left hand soft. That when you repeat it to play it the second time, you play it soft. That means the left hand has to be very soft, so you can work that out. As far as the speed goes, Allegro moderato is on the fast side of moderate, or the moderate side of Allegro. I'm not sure which. It's up to you. What can you play? How fast can you play and get all these 16th notes controlled and even? That's your speed, whatever it is. My speed's going to be different than yours. That's my speed. Your speed could... That's okay. The speed is secondary. Accuracy and control is first. A suggestion on practicing these fast passages like this, the third and fourth lines when you get this, or even the last 2 measures of the second line. Do it similar to the way I'm suggesting you do the scales. When you first start it, relax and put an accent, maybe every 8th note at the beginning. Down, down. Do it every 2 notes to keep you relaxed, and then you can do it, speed it up a little and do it every 4 16th notes, every beat. Put in a real solid accent on every beat there, and that'll help you feel this beat and get to it has a lot to do with being able to control the fingers and the evenness of the notes, and if you can learn to do this, it actually will help you play much cleaner and smoother. So when you get the last two measures of the second line, it's a put in an accent and drop the wrist. Now when you perform it, you're not going to do that, but there's a natural accent on every beat, so you can do it. There's a feel on that. You got to feel that beat in there. If you'll feel it, you'll play it. And that's eventually, you start out really slow and deliberate, and then you can gradually speed it up. The control will come in time. I like to play this slowly with you to double check the notes and the rhythms. I'm not going to do the dynamics. As far as the roadmap goes, you see the repeat signs. You're going to repeat the last two lines. At the bottom, there is a DC Alfine. Remember, DC means go back to the beginning. So you go back to the beginning, and fine is at the end of the second line. It's where the thin and thick bar lines are, and that's the end. So you're going to go back and play the first two lines again. So I'll give us 1 and 2 and. We come in on 1 and 2 and. Like that. Let's play it together very slowly. Now because of the 16th notes, I have put the metronome on 8th notes. So it's beating 8th notes on here. 1 and 2 and. Really super slow because the 16th notes are going to go twice as fast. And 1 and. Those are still going to go pretty quick. So let's try that. 1 and go. To the top.